You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. We have got Machinist Union organizer and educator Douglas Williams, AFGE organizer Brian Conlon, both of them contributing editors to Strike Wave. Talking to them, we left talking about how politics is really getting in the way of union organizing, and so I think we can talk a little bit about why that is and tie that into Biden's election. You know, Biden is now president-elect, and so give us y'all's thoughts on that, Douglas and Brian. What are your thoughts on the election of Biden and why it is that politics is really kind of getting in between David and his members in some cases?
So I think in a lot of ways you have you got to understand, right? The labor movement is a movement of people who come from the same neighborhoods as the rest of us, right? So, it's a very diverse movement ideologically. And part of the work is, one, getting rank and filers to care about politics at all, right? We sort of think that these folks should just be automatically tuned in to every development that's going on in DC or Montgomery. And to be honest, in a lot of ways, a lot of rank and file members are just like, well, that's stuff that happens out there, right? That this does not have any real effect on my life. And when they do tune in, right, they tune in to politics and they have the same sort of mode and mindset that the folks at their church have, that the folks in their sort of civic organizations have, that, these sort of community sort of pillars. And so how we have to talk about politics, to be honest, has to be different from talking about D's and R's, Democrats and Republicans.
Exactly.
We have to talk about issues, right? In a piece I wrote for Strike Wave, for example, I noted the 2010 race for governor of Ohio and then the 2011 referendum on repealing a bill that would have stripped public employees of their collective bargaining rights. The same with the 2016 governor's race in Missouri and the 2018 referendum on right to work, right? So in those electoral contests, those partisan contests, right, you saw big turnout for the Republican candidate. But in these issue-based referendums, right, what you saw was a big turnout for labor. And I think what this shows is that if you can take labor issues and completely divorce them from the current mode of partisan politics, the working class is all about that stuff, right? And that's what we have. We have to do a better job of using initiative and referendum abilities to put things on the ballot and get people their rights back without making it a thing about Democrat, Republican, or whatever, right?
And well, we don't even have to look at two separate elections in the past. We can look at 2020, where Donald Trump won Florida, and a $15 an hour minimum wage won with 60-something% of the vote.
Yeah.
That means there was at least 10, 15, 20% of the electorate in Florida who voted for Trump and voted for a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah. And even beyond sort of ballot initiative stuff, like North Carolina doesn't do tons of ballot initiative stuff. It all has to originate from the General Assembly if it ends up on the ballot. Like, even just sort of messaging more precisely about issues would probably pay dividends. One of the reasons why the Democratic nominee for the Senate here, a fella by the name of Cal Cunningham, one of the reasons he lost because he had a bimbo eruption, and he some sex he had with another man's wife came out, and the man is not smooth. We'll just get that out of the way right here. But part of the reason, like one of the reasons he lost is the now incumbent senator, Tom Tillis, was in North Carolina's General Assembly before he became a senator from North Carolina. One of the things he did in the General Assembly was utterly destroy the unemployment insurance system. There were tons of people in North Carolina who did not get their pandemic unemployment assistance for months because of the things that Tom Tillis did. Cunningham didn't say anything about that, didn't message on it, didn't talk about that track record of this is what Tom Tillis does when he has power. He is part of the reason why, like, you might have been late on your rent or mortgage. Like, do you really want to put him back in charge? Like, rather than messaging on that, like, the Democrats defaulted in a lot of ways to orange man bad. And like, I'll put this out here. I'm not a Trump supporter, never going to be a Trump supporter, but you've got to ultimately talk about the issues that affect people's lives, because if you don't, they're going to default to other things that matter to them.
Right. Well, too, they talked about orange man bad, but it wasn't even just that. It was orange man exclusively bad. They had Republicans speaking at the DNC. Joe Biden's message for the past 2 years has been that Donald Trump is a unique phenomenon in the Republican Party, and there's lots of good Republicans, and in fact, I would love to have a Republican vice president. They're not even connecting the badness of Orange Man to the rest of his party, and they have fundamentally the exact same agenda, which is to destroy the power of working people. Donald Trump just also tweets mean things and calls women mean words. Like, that's the only difference. The actual agenda that the Trump administration has passed has been lockstep exactly what would have happened under a Rubio administration, under a Kasich administration, under a Bush administration. Nothing is different. Nothing is different at all. And Democrats are not, like you said, they're not connecting this administration to the negative results that people are feeling in their pocketbooks and in their lives, and they're saying that no, Trump is just a uniquely bad person, and we need to get him and him alone out of office. And they're leaving down ballot races out to dry, and as a result, they're leaving their constituents out to dry.
Why are we talking about John Kasich? Why are the Democrats even remotely talking about John Kasich?
He has no constituency.
Yeah, he has no constituency. He's he's the architect of the attempt to repeal public sector collective bargaining that got curb stomped in a ballot initiative in Ohio that Douglas mentioned. Like, it's this sort of retreat into, we just need to go back to the way things were in 2015 that creates this just this absolutely this absolute capitulation on the part of the Democrats. And this isn't anything new. You saw this in 2016, again in North Carolina, a field office for the Republican Party in the state. And keep in mind, all the bad things that Trump did while like he was in office, all the destructive things he did in office were basically prototyped by the North Carolina Republican Party.
Yeah.
This office for the North Carolina Republican Party caught fire, and then a whole group of extremely dumb liberals decided to crowdfund to restore it because they apparently hadn't heard of things like fire insurance. And these are all people who are academics, and they're up in Yankeeville, and they've never set foot down here or done a single bit of work down here politically. And here they are, like, raising money for a party that literally 2 years later got caught attempting to steal a congressional election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
What?
Here's the thing, and we say it all the time on this show. We're constantly, we call out both sides. But the fact is, the Democrats have done absolutely nothing to help our cause, throughout, for as long as I can remember, to be completely honest. I mean, you look at what name something that Obama did in his first 2 years when he had the administration, and unlike Tommy Tuberville, I can, figure out the three different separate forms of government. But when he had the administration and Congress on his side, what did he do for organized labor?
Yeah.
I mean, this is why the people in the South don't want to vote Democrat no more, because they recognize that the Democrats have turned so far away from working class politics that it's sickening now. It's sickening.
And another thing about Democrats do not play to their base. Like Republicans, as soon as they get in office, they entrench their power, they destroy the Democrats' base by attacking organized labor. But Democrats, like you said, when Democrats get into office, they do not help build power for organized labor or anything like that. They leave us out on the vine, and they lose the next election because of it. Stay tuned. We're gonna talk some more to Douglas and Brian on the other side. This is the Valley Labor Report.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.